Hello and happy day. Have you reminded yourself to slow down today, to reduce the noise, to listen? My name is Igor S.F. Walker, and I am here to remind people to slow down, to reduce the noise, to walk their lives into a natural flow. Welcome back to the Book of the Week series. Every week, as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world. And today, we look at The Rise of Superman by Steven Kotler. The great civil rights leader Howard Thurman once said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive." Because what the world needs most is more people who have come alive. This book made me feel alive. It reminded me of what makes me come alive. It reminded me of why I do what I do, of why I help people master their human needs. By far, my favorite book of this year so far. We're talking about decoding the science of ultimate human performance here. High achievers, we now know, are intrinsically motivated. They're deeply committed to testing limits and stretching potential, frequently using intensely focused activity for exactly this purpose. This focused activity, according to Abraham Maslow, also produced a significant reward of its own: altering consciousness. Creating experiences very similar to those dubbed as mystical, even with people not really religious. What keeps them motivated is this quality of the experience they feel when involved with the activity. The feeling did not come when they were relaxing, when they were taking drugs or alcohol, or when they were consuming the expensive privilege of wealth. Rather, it often involved painful, risky, difficult activities that stretched the person's capacity and involved an element of novelty and discovery. Clear goals, immediate feedback, and the challenge-skill ratio are considered conditions for flow. However, they do not actually describe the state itself. Missing in this description is the one element that truly sets flow apart: the creative, problem-solving nature of the state, because flow requires action. Otherwise, action and awareness cannot merge. There's a decision-making involved in every step. Now, the brain has an electrical response. EEG measures those responses down to 1/1000th of a second range, which allows us to track how the brain changes across time. When someone is decision-making, and this can be an athlete solving a physical problem or an artist solving an aesthetic one, today we can see everything that leads up to a decision, the decision itself, and everything that happens as a result. No other technology can do that. There are 5 types of brain waves. Delta, the slowest brain wave, meaning the one with the longest pauses between bursts of electricity. It is found between 1 and 3.9 Hertz. When someone is in a deep, dreamless sleep, they are in delta. Next up, between 4 and 7.9 Hertz is theta, which correlates to REM sleep, meditation, insight, and, as it's often necessary for insight, the processing of novel incoming stimuli. Between 8 Hertz and 13.9 Hertz hovers alpha, the brain's basic resting rate. People in alpha are relaxed, calm, and lucid, but not really thinking. Beta sits between 14 Hertz and 30 Hertz and signifies learning and concentration at low end and fear and stress at high end. Above 30 Hertz, there's a fast-moving wave known as gamma, which only shows up during binding, when different parts of the brain are combining different thoughts into a single idea. Now we have 2 distinct systems for processing information. First, the explicit system. It is rule-based, can be expressed verbally, and is tied to conscious awareness. When the prefrontal cortex is fired up, the explicit system is usually turned on, but when the cold calculus of logic is swapped out for the gut sense of intuition, this is the implicit system at work. The system relies on skill and experience. It is not consciously accessible and cannot be described verbally. Try and explain a hunch. These 2 systems are often described as conscious versus unconscious or left brain versus right brain, but neither comparison is entirely accurate. When any of us make decisions, our brains go through a 6-stage cycle. Before the novel stimuli show up, which is what starts the whole process, we are in the baseline state. Then we move to the problem-solving analysis, pre-action readiness, action, post-action evaluation, and back to baseline. Each of these stages requires different parts of the brain and produces different brain waves. Theta for processing the novel stimuli, beta for analysis, alpha for action. Since flow is a fluid action state, making better decisions isn't enough. We also have to act on these decisions. The problem is fear, which stands between us and all action. Yet our fears are grounded in self, in time and space. With our sense of self out of the way, we are liberated from doubt and insecurity. The first step in flow cycle is known as struggle. Herbert Benson, the Harvard cardiologist who did much of the foundational research on this cycle, chose the name for a reason. Struggle is a loading phase. We're overloading the brain with information. The next stage in this cycle is release. To move out of struggle and into flow, you first must pass through the second stage. Release means take your mind off the problem to, as Benson says, completely sever prior thought and emotional patterns. And the zone, the flow state itself, is the third stage of the cycle. Struggle gives way to release, release gives way to flow. Afterward, we move into the fourth and final step of the cycle, recovery. Flow is an extremely expensive state for the body to produce and maintain. It requires a lot of energy, a lot of neurochemistry, and both take a little while to replenish. This is somewhat of what goes in recovery, and more important, memory consolidation is taking place. Knowing how long it takes someone to do something is useful, but it's still a gross metrics that explains little about the why. For a long time, this was the metric. Times have changed. We now have 6 or 7 measurement milestones. We have moved from gross physical measurements and measures to more precise biodata, from invasive biodata procedures to non-invasive biodata procedures. Today, we're actually able to measure and quantify ATP, essentially cellular energy levels at real time. This means that our ability to stalk elite performance has undergone a huge change, as is our ability to stalk flow, from MRI, which has been primarily used to study the body, to fMRI, which measures blood flow activity in the brain, to the use of EEG, to measure brain waves. At world-class level, where talent differences are marginal, it is estimated that 90% of success for elite performance is mental. Yet this is the one measure and measurement milestone we haven't hit. We don't know how to measure thought. What is it? Where does it begin and where does it go? Can we track it? Can we track its effects? What is an accurate picture of its total impact on biology? Until we know these things, psychology remains a fuzzy science. The fight or flight response, aka adrenaline rush, cocktails adrenaline, cortisol, the stress hormone, and norepinephrine. It is an extreme stress response. The brain switches to reactive survival autopilot mode. Options are limited to 3: fight, flee, or freeze. Flow is the opposite, a creative problem-solving state. Options wide open. If you have enjoyed this video, please do like it, share it with the world, subscribe to my channel, and you can get a direct link to this book in the description below. So get it and read. Thank you. Love and respect.